Hello, everyone. Happy Friday. Welcome, welcome, welcome. I see that we already have viewers in the room. Welcome, everyone, to Conversations with Graciously Me. Thank you for joining the conversation tonight. If you don't already know me, my name is Jamila Scott. I am the owner of Jamila Scott Enterprise, founder of Graciously Me Women's Empowerment Group, and host of this wonderful show, Conversations with Graciously Me. I just want to say thank you all for being here live tonight. Anyone that's watching the replay, please type hashtag replay in the comments so that I know you are here tonight. I want to be able to show you some love on tonight. Also, I just want to let you know, if you get something out of something, you should put something into something. I don't know if anybody ever heard of that old saying, but remember my grandfather used to say, you can't get nothing out of what you haven't put anything into. So if you hear something tonight that has informed you, enhanced your life in any way, please feel free to support the platform. And you can do that by donating any amount to via Cash App, which is showing at the bottom, to keep this platform thriving and going. So what else do I want to say? I'm so excited about tonight's guest. You know, we have real live guests on that talks about real life experience and shows you how you can get through that as well. Sometimes we do, however, talk about lighthearted things because, you know, you got to mix it up. But before we get started in tonight's show, I just want to make sure that you all know we have a dedicated Conversations with Graciously Me Facebook page. So be sure to like that page. We're also on YouTube. So if you would type in Jamila Scott on YouTube, you'll see the page come up. It'll say Conversations with Graciously Me right at the top. Subscribe. There are going to be old shows that's going to be there. Graciously Me actually was not always a public show. The show started in the Graciously Me Women's Empowerment Group. And then everyone, including the men, was like, you're having good topics. You're talking about credit. You're talking about all of these things that we want to know about too. So this year we decided to take Conversations with Graciously Me live in public. So those old shows are going to be on the YouTube channel. So be sure to go and subscribe to that channel. Tonight, we are talking about the process. And you know, that's the thing that all of us attempt to jump over, skip over. None of us want to go through the process, but guess what? We always end up facing it up front, personal. It gets in our face. It's no way that we can avoid it. And so since we can't avoid the process, we might as well learn how to get through it and get through it graciously. So what I want to do now, I want to introduce you tonight to the process coach herself. Her name is Andrea Smith. So without further ado, I'm going to add her in. Welcome to the conversation room.
Hi, how
are you? Can you hear me?
I surely can.
Welcome. Good evening. I want to say good evening. I see that we do have people already commenting and already posting. So good evening, everyone that's already here. Oh, one more thing. If you have questions, type them in the comments. I'll be able to show the comments just like here. We have Tracy saying, good evening, ladies. So if you have questions, do not be shy. That's what we're here tonight. 2021 is all about execution, and we cannot execute without steps, without tips, without a plan. And so ask the questions, and I will do everything that I can to make sure that you all can get the answers that you're looking for. So I want to go ahead and not cut your time short. So can you introduce yourself and tell us a little bit about you?
Sure. So first, I want to thank you so much, Jamila, for inviting me to come and to share tonight. It is really, really a blessing, and I'm so excited just to have this opportunity. And so my name is Andrea M. Smith, and I am a mental health coach. And what I do is I help people to be able to confidently and with understanding embrace their process so that healing can show up in every part of their lives. Because it's important that not only do we trust the process, but we have to learn how to participate in it. And so what I do is I help you to learn how to participate it again so that healing can show up in every part of your life.
All right. Now I hear that. Go ahead and if you can, either get a little closer or turn up your volume. I know for me, I'm having a hard time hearing you. So I don't know if that's for everyone, but you were a little bit low. So we don't want anyone to miss anything tonight. So if you could either turn your volume up or come a little closer, because and we're get ready to get into the beginning of things and where things started and how things.
Absolutely. Yes.
So you don't want anybody to miss this. So tell us your story. What is your story on your process?
So for me, my process started in 2008. And it happened, well, actually, I should say 2011, because in 2008, my mother came to live with me because she just couldn't no longer, really be in the house by herself. And so she came to stay with me. And then in 2011, she passed away. But in this time of taking care of her, my marriage was breaking down and things were just starting to get emotionally tight, if I can say that. And when my mom passed away in 2011, I decided that I would write this book about self-esteem and how women could, increase their low self-esteem. And in the midst of writing this book, the Lord began to deal with me about being molested and how I had not dealt with it. And it wasn't something that I said, well, God, I'm not going to put that in this book because I'm not going to put out all my business to everybody. You and I have had that conversation. It's not necessary to have that conversation with everybody else. And he said, but it is, because if you let me touch this space, every other area in your life will be better. And because I had not understood how deep that hurt was, I didn't understand how deep that trauma was. When I allow God to touch it, that's when I will say the dam broke. And then everything started to change from there, because it was that one thing that was the root to everything else that was going on. That was why the marriage couldn't be successful. That's why I faked ministry. That's why I, had a hard time dealing with rejection. That's why I ended up staying depressed for so long, because that thing I hadn't dealt with. And when I began to deal with it, that's when my process started for me.
Wow. So when you begin to deal with everything, I hear that this was deeply rooted. This had gone back from early years. It wasn't something that just happened when you got married or just happened out of the blue. That there were things that happened years and years ago that affected your decision-making processes and what you felt you needed and what you felt you didn't need and what you wanted to have. And to be able to see in life where the point you were at, that's the choice that you wanted to make. So how did you begin the process of healing? Because to even recognize, wait a minute, something is not going right and I need to address this within me.
So first of all, let me say this. I was not very cooperative, which happens to most of us. We are not cooperative when it comes to our process, because, the hardest thing about healing is to have to deal with the fact that you are a part of it, that there's a possibility, I'll say, that you actually were like a co-conspirator in your own hurt, right? Now, I'm not saying it was my fault that I got molested, but what I am saying is that once the Lord revealed that to me, now the responsibility was on me to decide whether or not I wanted to participate. And when I finally decided that I wanted to participate, when I finally said yes to God and I meant it, that was now when things could be revealed and other things could be uncovered, and I could start to step by step by step begin to deal with those things that needed to be dealt with. But the first thing I needed to deal with was the fact that I was going to say yes and mean it, and that I was going to go through, because sometimes we will pray and we'll say, God, take it away. But what we don't understand is that once you say, God, take it away, you also have to be willing to now go with the way that he wants to take it away.
Wow.
Right? So
Yeah.
you have to decide that, okay, God, I want you to take it away, and I'm going to come into agreement with the way you want to take it away. So that may mean that I have to expose myself a little more. I have to be even that much more transparent with you. I mean, I may need to share some things and say some things to people that I feel uncomfortable with saying. But if it's going to take me to the place where I'm asking you, or it's going to take me to the result, which is to take it away, then I have to be willing to do that.
Wow. Now that right there is eye-opening, because sometimes we ask God for things and sometimes we really aren't as ready as we think we are
No,
for the
we're
things that we ask for, because we don't even know what way he's going to go about bringing us out.
absolutely, absolutely. And I had no idea that he was going to decide that the first thing that I would have to do was tell the truth.
Wow.
The very first thing I have to do was to tell the truth. And sometimes we don't want to tell the truth. Sometimes we want to just kind of reason away some things that have happened. Or because, sometimes when we are hurt and we're healing, or we're dealing with healing, it's easier to point to what was done as opposed to what you didn't do.
Wow.
So it's easier to do this. It's easier to just sit in what happened, how they hurt me, who left me, who didn't help me, who didn't think about me. Nobody came to see me. Nobody called me. It's easier to sit in all of that. Nobody understands. And this is really deep for me. It's not that people don't understand. It's not that people are not concerned. But the thing about it is, it's not the people or the concern of the people that's going to get you through. It's the concern of you. It's your own determination. It's your own mindset to say, I don't want to live like this, that I won't spend another day giving permission to my pain to dictate to me how I'm going to live.
Wow, that is so true. So it's almost like we give power back to the people around us. We give power to the person who we feel like
Yeah.
hurt us or who did, because sometimes the people, they did hurt us just as well as we had a part to play. They also played that part, but it's up to us to take our own power back. And so, right. So we keep on, a lot of times people, I find that they like to be in a pity party. They like to tell their story over and over and over, and not for the main purpose to help someone else get through, but they find that they get attention that way, and people feel sorry for them. So it's like, do you really want to come out of this, or do you want to continue to play the victim? Because as long as you play the victim, you don't have to look inside, you don't have to look in yourself, you don't have to work on you, because the only thing you have to do is just blame the other person. And so most of us don't want to take that time to look inside, to do the work, to look at me, to look at, what part did I play in it? Those who are watching tonight, please let me know if you can hear. I'm pretty sure you can hear me because I speak loud anyway. But I'm just loud and country. That's me. But I don't have a problem with it. I'm good with it. It has helped me through. But I just want to be sure that you can hear Andrea. So please type in the comments if you can hear. I don't want you to struggle to hear tonight. So let us know. Let me know if you can hear or not. Okay. Robin says yes. Good. So you can hear Andrea. That's good. Good. All right. So let me ask you this. How do you then move from saying, okay, because, you have feelings, and you want to feel like the people that you gave your all for, the people you were there for, that they would be there for you, the people, the places that you gave, institutions, churches, pastors. Good. Everybody's saying they can hear. Good. All right. So you want to be able to feel like you can count on those people when you need those people, because when you're going through things like dealing with molestation, dealing with divorce, dealing with major heavy hitters that change your whole life, that you actually have to rebuild yourself both emotionally, financially, it really affects your overall living. And so you expect those people to be there. And while we cannot blame them, how do you forgive them? Because I know I am the type of person, I give my all. When I love you, I love you. You know what I mean? It could be my girlfriend, it can be romantic, it could be what, but when I do love you, I love. And so, how do you begin to process those people not being there for you and begin that forgiving process?
And so, well, one of the things that you have to do is you have to check your own motivations, and you have to be able to sift through your own feelings and your own mindset about how you're operating through the things that you're trying to deal with. So you have to be able to separate the thing that you're dealing with as opposed to how people are dealing with you. So for example, for me, the heaviest lift was dealing with rejection, dealing with depression, and dealing with the need to be validated. And so when you're dealing with those three things, what starts to happen is that you begin to filter through, or you filter the affections, or you filter the motives, or you filter the intentions of people through those things. So the first thing you got to do is you got to change the filter. You
Wow.
got to change the filter, because if you don't change the filter, when and if you are attempting to understand how people are engaging with you, and you're filtering that through rejection, and you're filtering it through the need to be validated, certain things that they do will be personal. Because
Wow.
now sometimes if you filter someone attempting to give you tough love through rejection, that will appear like they don't love you.
Mm.
Am I making sense?
Oh yeah,
That'll
a
look
whole
like you
lot of
don't want to help. That'll look like you don't want to help me. Or when you are, like you said, you're a very loving person and you give yourself and you do all of that. But if you filter that through validation, and somebody doesn't say thank you, or somebody doesn't give you the attention that you feel like you need because you starve in it, that'll look like that I'm not being appreciated. That'll look like they didn't recognize me, or they don't see me, or they don't see how hard I'm working. So the first challenge I'm going to give you tonight is to change the filter. What are you filtering people's opinions through? What are you filtering their love through? What are you filtering your friendships through? What are you filtering your relationships through? Because all this whole thing will touch every area of your life. Because for me, it touched everywhere. It touched ministry, because in ministry I wanted validation.
right.
In relationships, I wanted to be loved. I didn't want to feel rejection. I didn't want to be rejected. In business, again, I wanted to be validated. It was a hurtful thing for me if somebody didn't want to do business with me, because I took it personal. But it wasn't until I understood that just because somebody doesn't want to do business with me, so I had to deal with rejection. Because somebody doesn't want to do business doesn't mean I'm not good. It's just a choice that they make, because people have options. And so
Right.
you have to change the filter. You have to change the filter so that rejection doesn't tell you that tough love is somebody not wanting to help you. Or when someone said, someone didn't pat you on the back for something, you have to change the filter so that need of validation doesn't tell you that they don't think you're worth it, or they don't respect you, or they don't honor your gift, or all of the things that we start to think. So when you change the filter, then you can change how you hear, you can change how you receive things, and you can change how you respond.
Wow, you said a whole mouthful there because I never looked at it that way. And Tarshell, thank you for letting me know that I'm crackling. I'm trying to fix that on this side. But hopefully, I'm going to back up a little bit. Hopefully, that'll stop that crackle. Thank you for letting me know. So the filter, when you say filter, you mean you filtering things through hurt, through past things that happened to you because of not healing and not becoming whole again. So if you dealt with rejection, if someone comes to you and say, no, I don't want to deal with you, no matter if it's business, if it's life, no matter what it is, you seem to take that extra hard, or the person, not meaning you know what I mean, but the person seems to take that extra hard because they haven't dealt with the things that hurt them before. So
Absolutely.
so that's very important. I know one thing. There is no way to get past work. We try to get past it. We try to keep going, and we try, but it seems if you really want to live whole, if you really want to live your best life, you have to learn to deal with some things. So when did you actually realize in your process of going through all of these things that you had gone through, when did you realize, wait a minute, I can't heal without me taking responsibility? And saying, "Oh Lord, I might play a part in this." So, what made that aha moment happen?
So the aha moment for me was when my marriage started falling apart. When my marriage started falling apart, I started to see how I responded and what I would filter my feelings through. Now, let me say this, marriage is two people, of course. And yes, he had his part, but there were some things that I had done. And there were some things that my mindset would allow me to do that I would justify. And so, every now and again, the Lord would check me on it, but I would reject the check because in my mind, he was rejecting me. He wasn't validating me as a wife. He wasn't validating me as a woman. Now, this is what my mind is telling me now. And I'm feeling depressed and I'm doing, I'm trying to, I'm feeling like I'm being fabulous when really I'm being childish. I'm being immature. I'm being selfish. And it wasn't his fault, but it was because I hadn't dealt with the stuff. Because if I had really been honest, and that's when the place I finally got to understand is that for number one, I was too broken to be married. For number one. And so when I got married, I didn't enter into a covenant. Marriage for me was a cover. And that was a very, very hard thing to admit. It was a cover because I had an
What does that mean? Talk about that cover. What is the cover? Let's
So the cover was basically the marriage was a place for me to hide. This was going to be the place where he was going to keep promises to me that everybody else didn't. Right?
Yeah, that's
so
good.
He was going to be the person who was going to protect me because my dad didn't. He was going to be the person who was going to make me feel a certain way because 3 boyfriends ago didn't do it. So this was the place now that I was going to be able to hide and I would be able to perform because I had performed for quite a long time because I learned how to disassociate. I learned how to compartmentalize my feelings. And so this was the place that I was going to hide. So, and when you and I talked the other day, I said, when we were asked to get married, sometimes we don't say yes to the question. We say yes to the presentation. And so really,
now you gotta go deeper in that.
I did. I said yes to that. And so now it didn't become a covenant. When I stood there and I took my vows, I was saying, yeah, I'm going to do this, I'm going to do this. But really, when it got tough, who I really was showed up. Who I really was emotionally showed up. Who I really was mentally showed up. And so now here we are in the midst of this marriage and we're tugging and talking about it's your fault, when really no, had we just been honest with ourselves first, we could have been honest enough to say, I'm not ready. And we wouldn't have had to fake, I don't know how many years. Not to say that we didn't love each other, but we did fake some stuff.
Right.
You just did. You faked it.
That's real. That's real talk.
That's real talk. You faked it because you're like, well, this is what I'm supposed to do. So I'm supposed to endure. I'm supposed to try to stay with it. And I'm supposed to try to do all of these things. When you go to counseling and all of that, and they tell you to pray and they tell you to fast and they tell you to seek the Lord. But sometimes they don't tell you just to tell the truth.
Go ahead. Ain't that the truth?
Just tell the truth. Because sometimes it's not about sometimes it's not about that the bed wasn't right or the money was funny or the something to the something. Sometimes it was just two people not being honest. Just
Yeah.
not being honest. Because again, I don't want to be rejected. I want to be validated. I need to be loved. My love language is words of affirmation. So
Okay.
I need that. I
Right.
need words. And so I didn't get words a lot. And so I felt rejected. And so I filtered everything he did now through that filter.
Wow. Wow. You know what? That is so true. When people, I don't understand why, be it man, woman, whoever it is in the relationship, we always put our best foot forward and we try to do everything so perfect in the beginning and we do, but if we could just be real with each other, a lot of issues would just, you would have known, really, should I get married or really should I wait a minute? You know what I mean? Or really,
Mhm.
what am I getting into? Because when you were saying some people, they get married and you get married for the presentation of it, but do you really know what you're saying yes to? So
Absolutely.
what is it that you're saying yes to? Are you saying yes that you don't mind him getting mad and throwing things because you saw him about 3 months in get mad, right? That's what we
Mhm.
saw. We saw him
Mhm.
act a whole fool, but guess what? We wanted somebody so bad. So we figured, he won't really do that for real, like all the
Right.
time. This is just a one-time thing. So we ignored that. We seen how he kind of came off the cuff at us, and
Mhm.
said little flip stuff, and you caught that. But instead of you catching it and saying, wait a minute, let me put this in my checker and let me really evaluate, we said, he really probably isn't like that, all the time. But most of
Mhm.
the time, whether it be man or woman, you get those little insights and you get those peeks into who this person is. Like I said, if you haven't seen anybody get upset, then you really haven't seen them yet. If you
Yes.
haven't seen anybody broke, you really haven't
Mm.
seen it yet.
Mhm.
If you haven't seen anybody make decisions and be able to evaluate their decisions to see if really they are a great decision maker and you can trust that person, you really don't know them. So I don't care how many times you went out to eat. I don't care how many Louis he bought you. I don't care how many times he sent the car to pick you up. That will not make a marriage last. And
It does.
so, we seem to go over those things, but we're not saying that that other person didn't do their part. We're not just
Absolutely.
it was, all on you or all on the one person. We acknowledge that everybody plays a part in these types of situations. But what we're talking about tonight is how to get through the process, because if you were married and now you're going through a divorce, or you're going through a life-changing moment, you're
Mhm.
going to most likely be going through that thing.
Absolutely.
So um,
Because in the midst of all of that, in the midst of this marriage, so it wasn't just the fact that my mother had passed away. It wasn't just the fact that now the marriage was falling apart, and then we did eventually divorce, and then financial crisis comes along now, and now I'm homeless. It's a combination of things, but the point of process is that you got to do some work. You got to, and the first work of process is looking at you. See, we think that healing is about I'm gonna sit here and I'm gonna cry it out and I'm gonna pray it out and I'm gonna no, you gotta work it out. You gotta work it out because you gotta see your part. You gotta see that sometimes you was tripping. You gotta see sometimes that you said things that you had no business to say. And when you can get to the root of a thing, you can understand why you do the things you do. That is key to process. Why do I do what I do?
mm,
Why? Why do I think like that? Why do I feel like that? Why is it so hard for me to accept the fact that I may have participated in my own hurt? Why is it hard for me to do that? And that takes conversations, that takes honesty, it takes transparency, and it takes a willingness to say, just to tell the truth. just to tell the truth. And guess what? You can be as spiritual as you want to be, been in Jesus 29 years, love the Lord, know Genesis to Revelation. But guess what? You can still get depressed. You can still need validation. You can still struggle with rejection. You can still struggle with low self-esteem. And I'm here to tell you today, guess what? You can't shout that out. You
No.
can't, you can't roll on the floor and get that out. You have to decide that I'm not good, that I love God with all of who I am, but mentally, I got some things that I need to deal with, and it's okay. And I know that for the church and even outside of the church, that mental health is not a thing that we really talk about. We don't talk about people really struggling with depression. Nobody wants to be depressed. Nobody wants to sit in even some of the things that they're sitting in, but they just don't know how to get out. And so for me, I attempt to be as transparent as necessary so that people understand that you're not the only person. One of the worst things you can do when you are trying to heal is to believe that you are the only person who has ever experienced what you are experiencing, because it's just not true. And what I have found is when people know that they're not the only one. When I wrote my first book, Restore Such a Woman, and I revealed that I wrote that book when I was 48. I had been molested from 11 to 13, and I had never told anybody that until I wrote that book. I held that for over 30 years. I held it.
Wow.
And when I wrote that book and women started to buy it and people started to look at it, I had women starting to inbox me who were 60 and 50 years old saying that happened to me too, and I never told nobody.
Wow.
They just needed somebody to identify with them. Sometimes people can't get to their healing because they have nobody to identify with. And so we're in a time where transparency is important, where truth telling is important, and where, it may not look so good.
Right.
Some of this is ugly, some of it is very painful. But when you go through process and you deal with it and you allow the Lord to touch those places and you allow him to speak to you and you're not resisting, you don't resist, and you take the lessons and you move on, I promise you, you do better. You'll do better.
Well, how do you, once you realize, hey, I might have to look inside and I might have to do a little work, where do you even start? Like, where do you start to even begin to do the work?
So after you tell the truth and after you give God a hard yes, then you start working it out. Then you start having some conversation. My first conversations were with him first. And I did do some counseling. I did, because I had some experiences that happened that required that I just needed to be able to talk to somebody. I had had a miscarriage and it broke my heart. And so I had to really talk to somebody. I had to talk my way through that one. And not only just pray and, read my word, but I actually had to go to someone and have some conversations about how that was making me feel and what it was doing to my faith and what it was producing in me and how it was, making me feel, less than a woman. And, why didn't I, the guilt that I felt about it and all of those different things. And so there are a combination of things that you'll have to deal with. Yes, you'll deal with the spiritual side of it, but there may be some counsel that you'll need to do to be able to help you, because you always need an objective voice to be able to say to you, well, why did you feel like that? And then you need the outlet to be able to say, well, I felt like this because of so and so. Well, where did that come from? And so as you begin to have those conversations and you dig and you finally get to the root of the thing, now that's when you can start to put the plan in action to cut that root off and then begin to move on. Because one of the things in process is that you have to learn how your stuff is showing up in your life. How is it showing up? And so when you figure out, first of all, when you acknowledge what it is, then you got to define how it's showing up. And then after you define how it's showing up, then you can create a plan where you can move forward.
Wow. So, wow, that's a whole mouthful, because it's like, not only do you, when you finally come to the realization that I really need to do the work, then you have to say, okay, if I can't help myself, I need to find somebody who can work through this thing with me. and not feel like I don't have enough faith. I don't believe God because I didn't just allow him to work this out in me, and all of these things I've heard before. And it's like, no, they didn't even have nothing to do with that. Or
That's it. That's it. That's
what
it.
that don't have nothing to do with nothing. Like, this is a whole different ball game. And so how about standards and boundaries? Because and I hear that crackling, y'all. I'm still working on this thing. But for standards and boundaries, say you go through this healing process, you are no longer filtering because someone said no to you, that you just go into a sunken place. You know what I mean? You got a little backbone now, you can let it roll off your shoulders and keep it moving, But when do you, I guess my question is, like, you're interacting with someone else. And so you're saying that, let me cut this off. Okay. So you're no longer filtering that rejection through, my dad didn't do what he was supposed to do, so I'm now expecting you to do what you're supposed to do, and you didn't do it. And how, if you encounter that again, are you able to say, because a lot of time people that's rejected want attention, they want these things. So what does healing look like? What does it look like to say, okay, I'm giving you a chance because I know I dealt with this before? And it's going to still be a process, because even if you learn things about yourself, you work things out, you're still, it seems like God always puts you in a position where he says, okay, let me see if you really learned this or not. Or let me see if you really, love yourself. I'm gonna allow this situation to happen, and I'm gonna see if you're gonna say no to it, because you don't really need all of that attention that bad, or when I'm gonna let this guy do X, Y, and Z to you, but I'm gonna see if you're gonna say, you know what, I know what I'm looking for. I have standards, and bye. You know what I mean? You're not so clingy and holding on. Where do those boundaries end?
So the first thing is this. The first decision I made was, and I knew I was healing when I decided that I would no longer give or receive love from a broken place. That was the first thing. I would not do that anymore. I made that concrete decision. And I decided that part of healing was learning how to protect my space, right? How to protect myself and not feel guilty about it. Then I knew I really was somewhere when I no longer feared what people would say about the decision I made for me. That's how I knew I was good. Wow. So now because I had some standards I created, I had some boundaries I set. And so now when I would make decisions or I would give people a response based on the standards and the boundaries that I set for my mental health, because for me, my mental health is just like breathing. So once I set those boundaries, I no longer feared how you felt about it. That's how I knew I was good. That's how I knew I had broken through rejection. That's how I knew I had broken through validation. And it's not a nonchalant, I don't care. It's a real confident, like I really don't care. Like, I love you, but like, I really don't care, because I'm at all costs, I'm going to protect my space. At all costs, I'm going to protect my peace. At all costs, I'm going to protect this solitude that I've created for myself. And so, if one of the things I struggled with was saying no, rejection and validation, here we go. I would struggle with saying no. But I knew I was good when I no longer feared saying no, and I no longer feared what you felt about me saying no. Wow. That's how I knew I was better. And I became more confident in the way that I could communicate with people and how I could articulate with them. I knew I was better when I didn't articulate or communicate things emotionally, like over emotionally. Like, I really had to get my point in, and I really had to No, if I said no, I just said no.
Mm.
And then if they say, well, why you don't want to do that? I could just calmly say to them, I've said no. And I would appreciate now that we move on to another conversation. One of the things that I've learned and what works for me is that when I have expressed to someone that I don't want to do something, I would like for you to honor my decision by not asking me why. And I could communicate that and I could move on. And when the first couple of times I had to do it, it didn't work out so good because I, got a little argumentative and I'm like, you didn't listen to what I said and which, all the neck roll and all that. But eventually I got to the place where I learned how to communicate and articulate. And as a matter of fact, I was no longer fearful of communicating how I felt. I didn't filter through the fact that I would be mad and I might cuss or I might something. I could confidently say, no, I can express to you what I'm feeling about this and I could move on. And that's how I knew I was getting better. And I tell you, it's just so freeing for me because I do what I want to do and I don't do what I don't want to do.
Wow. Wow. That right there is so hard for so many of us, especially women. Men, it's like, no, that's what I said. I'm out. Even when
We can have a little discussion, but then once we finish the discussion and then I give you my firm no, I'm done with that conversation. We need to start talking about something else because I'm not revisiting that anymore. I'm done with that. I'm finished.
Right. That is so true. So learning that art of no, and just like let me see here. I saw a comment here that says LD. Wait a minute, I don't want to mess it up. Is it Indira?
Yes, Indira.
Yes. Hello, welcome to the conversation room. Yes, self-care at all costs, and no is a complete sentence. So,
hey, LD, absolutely. It's no. It is. That's a complete sentence.
yes.
It got a noun, a verb, a period. It got it all. That's it. We're done. No, I'm good.
Right.
You have to learn how to do that, but you have to decide again, like I said, that you want to do the work because it takes work. Again, once you say, God, take it away, be willing to do what he says so that it will go away. It'll go away. Because the self-care is the sustenance. That's how you keep yourself sustained. That's how you keep your mind clear. That's how you keep your thoughts, I guess I could use the word pure because that's how you keep your thoughts unfiltered. That's how you keep them open because you're not filtering through anything that used to hurt. You're filtering it through an honest thought and an honest motivation, and you're responding in an honest and transparent way. And it's okay to do that. It's okay to be, it's okay to put yourself in that mindset. Now, the thing you also have to do is once you set your standards and boundaries, you got to be okay with the decision that you make. You can't go back pondering saying, well, maybe I shouldn't. No, you can't compromise. Don't compromise your mental health. And I'm not saying, build up this wall that can't nobody get through. That makes no sense. What I am saying, though, is that being protective of your mental health is a good thing. And you do that by being transparent. You do that with firm decisions. And you do that by self-care.
So what does self-care look like for you? What were some of those things when you were going through those rough times and you were going through those life-altering, situations? What does self-care look like?
Self-care for me some days looked like just sitting in a room by myself with a cup of tea and being quiet. Sometimes self-care looked like when I had a couple of dollars, because I was struggling. If I had a couple of dollars, sometimes self-care was going to the hairdresser.
Yes.
Sometimes self-care for me was journaling. It's going to look different for everybody because self-care is not necessarily buying a pocketbook, getting a massage, and going to lunch with your girlfriend. Sometimes self-care is just a day of reflection where you just think about where you are. You think about where you've been. You think about, you congratulate yourself, for making a couple steps forward. Even though they were, you were stumbling, you was still moving forward, right? You wasn't falling backwards. At least you was falling forward into something. And so some days, self-care was, as a matter of fact, self-care one day was your mom came and took me out to dinner one day. That was self-care one time. Girl, I had a steak, it was good.
Right.
That was self-care one day, because sometimes you have to learn how to allow people to love you. You have to learn how to allow people to help you. And you can't, and this is what I want to say in your process. You do not dictate how people deal with you. Don't do that. Be mature about where you are. Be honest about where you are, because there will be people that the Lord will send to you to help you through your process. And those people have to be mature and they have to be patient. But don't test their maturity and don't test their patience with your immaturity and your impatience with your own process. Don't do that. Don't ask God to help you. And then when he sends the help, you want to try to tell the help how to help you. No. Just be grateful. You have to, and one of the things I learned in process was to be grateful, was to be thankful. I was grateful that I had somebody I could call at 3 o'clock in the morning when I was sounding crazy, and she would answer her phone and talk to me. I was grateful. I didn't demand that she talk to me at 3 in the morning. I was grateful if she did it for me.
Wow.
And so you have to do those things. You got to do those things.
That is so true, because on the flip side, you have people that automatically seem to run away when they see someone in distress. And those were those people I was speaking about earlier who, you had to learn how to forgive and all of that. But then it seems like there will always be a ram in the bush, so to speak, of people that will come out. And you're like, man, out of everybody that I thought would be there for me, who would have ever thought someone from way over here or someone, would really care, really honestly want to walk me through that, process. And I learned a new friend, a good walk friend. I learned a new word, a walk. So
for somebody, right? And then I wrote it in my book, The Process Matters. I talk about that because I share how the people who I thought would be a part of my process were not. The people who God used in my process were people who I didn't have these real deep friendships with, and they knew where all my bones was buried. And, we had some secret thing we did together that nobody knew. And, they knew me for 10,000 years and all of that kind of stuff. The people that God put in my life to help me through my process were people who I really didn't have a real deep relationship with. Some of them, I only knew them through church. And maybe seeing them at a fellowship or something. And that thing really blew me away. And I had to really get over the hurt of the fact that because who I thought was supposed to be there. And I even got into a space where I felt like, well, God, what is that about? Wait a minute. Aren't these the people who are supposed to be with me? Aren't these the people who are supposed to be helping me? And he said, no, remember, I'm doing this. And so you're going to have to move the way I'm moving. You're going to have to be comfortable with who I use, who I send, what I say, what I tell them to say, and how I tell them to help you. And when I tell them don't help you, you have to be comfortable with all of that. So you got to deal with resentment, because you can't be in charge of the process. You just got to follow it. You can't be in charge.
That is something right there, because for a person who likes to be in control, that
don't work so good.
No, you're asking them a whole lot to be able to just let go and just ride the wave. How instead of fighting the current, just going with the flow of things. And so that can be so hard. But in life, sometimes we have to do that. So we are actually coming up on an hour right now. The time goes by fast. Before we get out of here, I just want you to be able to share a program that you have. So I am going to remove us for one moment and just let you talk about the services and products that you offer. So one moment here.
To help you step by step to be able to am I here?
I'm going to add us both back because it looks like it will not let you tonight for some reason. It won't let you talk about it while we're showing it. So go ahead. I'm going to put it back really quickly, and then I'm going to bring us both back. So when people who are watching live in the replay, when I go back and take us out and show one of the programs, there's going to be 3 different items that we're going to show. Take a screenshot of that item. We're going to come back and I'll let Andrea talk about it. Okay, so go ahead and talk about your coaching program.
So the Unleash Your Healing coaching program basically is a step-by-step course that's going to help you to begin to, number one, to acknowledge where you are, to define how things are showing up in your life, how to find out how rejection or whatever it is that you're dealing with, how that's showing up in your life. And then we talk about how to create a plan to be able to move you forward. And so when you go in and you sign up for that course, the very first course, the title of that course is called I'm Ready, I Think. Because sometimes we think we're ready, and then I'm like,
I don't know.
Might not be. And so the whole course really challenges you to tell the truth, define where you are, and make the decision to get a plan that's going to help you set boundaries and sustain yourself and create a plan of self-care so that you can move forward so that every area of your life, your healing shows up in it.
Wow, that's powerful. So if you guys are wanting more one-on-one help with going through whatever process it is that you're all going through, that would be a perfect program to enroll in. I'm going to bring up now the book. Okay, so I hope you guys got the screenshot. If you didn't, go back, watch the replay, and get that screenshot.
So you have the 3 books. You have Restore Such a Woman, which is the first book that I wrote, where I actually came out and told about being molested and all of the things that I was dealing with at that time. And then you'll see the second book that I wrote, which is called The Process Matters. And that's really where I talk about process. That's where I really unveil everything that I had to do, all of the things that I had to deal with, where I was emotionally and mentally, and even where I was spiritually, so that I could work out my process. And then to accompany that book, there is a 21-day devotional that helps you. And, devotionals can be a part of the self-care. And so I really encourage you to get those books.
All right. And last but not least, okay. So your podcast, I'm excited about that. Tell us about that.
Oh, my relationship talk, my podcast. So I decided that I would do this podcast because I was seeing so many things on Facebook, especially within women's groups, about relationships and why they don't work. And, normally, and I hate to say this, but for the most part, women's groups sometimes, especially when it comes to relationships, they are like amen corners. So they're the place where all the women get together and talk about how this man was a dog and he didn't treat me right and something to the something. And, and we do all of that. And you never hear any accountability for the decisions that are made. And so this podcast is really not about picking a side, But really what it is an opportunity to bring us out of our neutral corners, get to the healing part, learn how to forgive each other, because we both mishandled each other's hearts. We've done that. So the thing is to now to tell the truth about how you mishandled somebody else and how you got mishandled. And then let's learn how to forgive each other and just be real about where we are mentally. Are we prepared for relationships? Are we prepared for marriage? Have we done the work to learn how to really forgive and do those things? Because, and I think, and I shared with you the other day, one of the things I learned about within my marriage was that my mom had been abused by my dad. And so she wasn't against marriage and she wanted me to be married. You know, she wanted the whole thing, you know, the house, the 2 kids, and the white picket fence.
Right.
But she also had subliminally really not taught me how to be a wife or a partner. She taught me how to survive. And so, you know, those subliminal messages that we get about, girl, you better have another count, and girl, do this and something to the something. That really teaches us how to survive marriage, not to be a partner. And so I want to venture in and I want to talk about those things in relationship talk. And so as soon as it is ready and I'm prepared to go, you will all know about it.
Yes, definitely, definitely. Let us know. I will be one of your viewers because that's a topic.
And one of my guests.
Thank you.
Yes.
That's a topic I could definitely talk about. But so I would love that. You know, I support anybody that is working in their purpose and want to, you know, begin to work in their purpose. I always support. I'm behind them 100%. So it would be an honor to be on your podcast. I just want to tell you, thank you so much. We've had so many comments. I'm looking over here. Someone said this was really good. I can't see who you are. Robin said this was really good. Thank you, Andrea.
Hey, Robin.
Alicia said, you know, that's good. You must have said something that was really good. And so it was a lot of good information, and it takes a lot to be transparent. It takes a lot to share your story, but you know, when you know you have healed, and when you know that you are no longer being affected by your story, that's the time to share it. And so I just want to say thank you so much. It was very enlightening. No problem at all. It was very enlightening. Oh, no problem at all.
You know, Jamila, once you put it in a book, you can't say you don't want to be transparent. You know, I done put all my business out in the street, so it ain't no sense in talking about now. I'm too shy to say something because I done said it all now. I done told all my business. So.
Right.
I know that's right. Nothing now.
Yes, but you have definitely helped a lot of people. So I know that somebody tonight has gotten something, they've received something that, you know, really helped them, no matter what it is, no matter where you are in the process, no matter if it's a job you lost, no matter if it's a relationship, you still have to go through the process. Yes. And so we just really appreciate you being open and honest and letting us know it's not just us going through the things that you're going through, and we don't have to be isolated. So thank you so much. I really appreciate it.
So welcome. And I just want to let the ladies know tonight that, you know, I lost a lot. I lost everything. My marriage, my home, finances, I lost it all. But I will tell you today, ladies, that God has restored it all of it. And I am just so excited. And I pray that I've said something to you today that will help you move forward. And I just want to encourage you to let you know that you do not have to spend another day wherever you are. You do not have to spend another day feeling anything. You can move forward.
Wow. Thank you. So, ladies, we have work to do. Men, it is women out there that's not just blaming you. We know that all of you are not dogs. We know that good men, a lot of good men out there. Yes. And so these, you know, it's women out there that's working on themselves so that they can be the best them for you. Because when you work on yourself, and it's men working on themselves, and they don't want anything. They don't want to have to deal with all of your stuff that you haven't dealt with when they've done the work. Because anybody that's done the work, they know what it takes to get through. And when you've done the work, you don't really take too much foolishness. You know what I mean? You don't take too much mess because it's hard. It's hard work to do that. So We're out here and we're making ourselves better, and we're not blaming anybody else, but we're taking responsibility so that we can move on and things we have to do in both business, relationship, life, children, all of that. We just want to be our best selves. So good night, Andrea. I'm going to tell the viewers good night. I'll talk to you in just one moment. Hold 1 second for me. So everybody, thank you so much for joining us tonight. This was a wonderful, wonderful conversation. I mean, to even just take a self-reflection and look at yourself and say, maybe I'm looking at my situation through a filter of something else. Maybe I'm blaming other people for things that I just haven't done the work for. Maybe I didn't ask the right questions and I got into situations for the wrong reason. I was expecting someone else to fulfill something in me that I needed to do the work on, and I need to take the time and do that. So about going through the process, what I've gathered and even in experience, you have to look at you. You have to take care of you. You have to do the work. And at the end, you have to be firm and secure in your decisions. You have to be all right with saying no. You have to be all right with cutting people off. And you have to be able to still thrive and not survive after doing that. So I just want to say thank you. You all please share from the Conversations with Graciously Me Facebook page. If there's someone that was not on tonight and you say, look, you need to hear this, please share that with them. And as well, I want to say again, subscribe to that YouTube channel so that you don't miss out on anything. So I want you all to enjoy the rest of your evening. Have a great weekend. And as I always say, in a world where you can be anything, always, always, always choose to be yourself. Have a good night.